On today's broadcast, a typhoon is heading for the port city of Busan, forcing boats to harbor and slowing exports. The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit has wrapped up in Bali, Indonesia, and North Korea denounces a joint naval drill of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan. This is KBS World Radio News. I'm Bruce Harrison. South Korea's largest port on the country's southeast coast is bracing for Typhoon Danas. Busan port authorities banned all ships from leaving or entering the docks in the city of Busan from 8 a.m. Tuesday as the typhoon churns north toward the Korean peninsula. Exports and imports will also be hampered since loading and unloading of cargo were halted. Domestic flights serving Kimhae Airport in Busan are running as usual, but 6 international flights scheduled to arrive in Kimhae Tuesday were canceled. Prime Minister Chung Hong-won has ordered the government to fully prepare to minimize any potential damage from Typhoon Danas. The office of the Prime Minister said with the typhoon moving north toward the Korean peninsula, Chung gave the order to related ministries, including the Ministry of Security and Public Administration and the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport. The Prime Minister told the government to stay on alert and keep a close eye on the direction of Danas until it completely leaves the Korean peninsula. He also directed the government to do its best to keep the situation under control and respond appropriately to any emergency. President Park Geun-hye called the Prime Minister from Indonesia on Monday night and asked him to prepare to prevent any typhoon-related damage.
You're now listening to the news from KBS World Radio's News Center in Seoul, Korea.
The 2013 Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC Summit in Bali, Indonesia, has closed after adopting a statement on curbing protectionism. In the statement, Asia-Pacific leaders reaffirmed their commitment to refrain from introducing new protective trade measures until 2016 and to end existing ones. The leaders also agreed to work for the success of the World Trade Organization Ministerial Conference. The conference will be held in December to discuss enhancing the multilateral trade system. The presidential office said President Park Geun-hye's calls for free trade in her speech at the summit were properly reflected in the APEC leaders' statement. The president stressed efforts to block protectionism in an interview with Indonesian media as well. In the final summit session on Tuesday, Park proposed member states of APEC promote private investment in infrastructure and utilize information, science, and technology to establish a close network among the members. Park also emphasized the use of science and technology to boost economic growth and cope with climate change in meetings with other APEC leaders. The president will attend the Korea-ASEAN Summit in Brunei on Wednesday. She will also hold separate bilateral talks with leaders of Brunei, Singapore, and Australia. Candidates are set to compete for 2 seats in Parliament late this month. The Senuri Party appears to have the upper hand, but the Democratic Party plans to underscore the current administration's campaign pledge failures to try and come away with the victories. Our Kim So-yeon reports.
The ruling Senuri Party held a ceremony Tuesday marking its candidate nominations for the 2 districts where lawmakers will be elected on October 30th. The Senuri Party's Heo Chung-won served 6 terms in parliament and is gunning for a seat in Hwasong 8 district in Gyeonggi province. The spot was left open following the death of a ruling party lawmaker. The main opposition Democratic Party has nominated party committee chief for the constituency, Oh Il-yong, to take on the pro-Park Geun-hye heavyweight. Former Gyeonggi Provincial Governor Son Ha-kyu refused to run for the seat for the Democratic Party. In the Pohang-Ulung district, the ruling party nominated former Public Administration Minister Bang Myung-jae, and the Democratic Party nominated Heo Dae-man, the chief of its North Gyeongsang province. The seat was previously held by Senuri Party lawmaker Kim Young-tae, who was ousted from parliament for violating election law. The Senuri Party believes with its 2 heavyweight candidates, it has the edge in both districts, but plans to remain humble to achieve overwhelming election victories. The DP has expressed disappointment standing party advisor Son Ha-kyu is not running, but it says it's determined to win as many votes as possible by underlining the president's retreat from her campaign promise on senior citizens' welfare. Official campaigning will begin after candidates are registered by the National Election Commission on Thursday and Friday. Saenuri floor leader Choi Kyung-hwan will lend his support to Seo Chang-won by attending the launch of his campaign office on Wednesday. Choi will also visit the Pohang-Ulung district in the south to back the party candidate. Democratic Party Chairman Kim Hang-gil attended the opening of Heo Dae-man's campaign office on Tuesday. Kim encouraged Heo for running in a traditional Saenuri Party stronghold and promised all-out party support. Kim So-yeon, KBS World Radio News.
The floor leader of the main opposition Democratic Party has described the first 8 months of the Park Geun-hye government as the age of mistrust, uncertainty, crisis, and lack of communication. Floor leader Jun Byung-hun made the remark during a speech at the National Assembly on Tuesday and called for an overhaul of the current administration. Jun said the people who yearn for an era of people's happiness with the launch of the Park Geun-hye government are currently suffering an era of impasse. He cited the alleged intervention of the National Intelligence Service in last year's presidential election as a factor that led to a lack of communication and uncertainty. He also said the president should reveal the truth and apologize to the people. Jun said the first 8 months of the Park Geun-hye government have resulted in 8 uncertainties, including a step backwards for democracy and failures in personnel appointments. He also said there were a number of deceptions, including abandoning economic democracy and reducing basic pension for senior citizens. Jun proposed yielding a social accord on the issue of basic pension by setting up a committee within the National Assembly of government officials, legislators, and private citizens. The floor leader made no mention of the controversial transcript of the 2007 Inter-Korean Summit. Ruling Saenuri Party floor spokesman Kim Tae-hum responded critically to Jun's speech in a briefing on Tuesday. He said the speech was full of hostility and distortions. North Korea has criticized the deployment of a U.S. aircraft carrier for U.S.-led naval drills with South Korea and Japan. In a statement Tuesday, the General Staff of the Korean People's Army, which is the equivalent of South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, denounced the entrance of the USS George Washington into the port of Pusan. The North State-run Korean Central News Agency said the General Staff instructed all military forces to review operational plans ratified by the highest command and to maintain combat mobilization readiness. A spokesman for the General Staff said the U.S. must note that the more frequently and deeper Washington's means of nuclear strike enter waters and skies around the Korean peninsula, the closer it will be to facing unpredictable disasters. The spokesman said if the U.S. government truly wants to denuclearize the Korean peninsula and is interested in promoting peace and security in the region, it must make the first move and not North Korea. Meanwhile, the drill was postponed due to Typhoon Danas.
You're now listening to the news from KBS World Radio's News Center in Seoul, Korea.
Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Hyun Oh-suk has vowed to focus policies on promoting investment for service industries. At a meeting of economy-related ministers on Tuesday, Hyun said a fourth round of policies on boosting investment will center on strengthening the competitiveness of service industries. He said China recently opened a free trade zone in Shanghai, adding it is significant that Socialist China is actively easing regulations in the service sector. He also said the nation's economy is showing signs of recovery, citing an increase in mining and manufacturing output by 1.8% in August from July. Hyun noted housing prices have grown for 4 consecutive weeks since the government unveiled real estate measures on August 28th. The International Monetary Fund says South Korea, Australia, and Canada will endure the United States' reduction in quantitative easing relatively well compared to other countries. The IMF said in a report Monday that global financial markets are expected to become increasingly volatile with the U.S. stimulus drawdown. But it said South Korea, Australia, and Canada are less likely to be exposed to market volatility and capital outflows since they don't use unconventional monetary policies. The IMF also said they are more resilient to such risks. South Korean shares have closed higher, topping the 2,000 mark on buying by foreigners. The benchmark Korea Composite Stock Price Index KOSPI on Tuesday rose 8.34 points, or 0.42%, to close at 2,002.76. The tech-heavy Kosdaq also went up 0.39 points, or 0.07%, closing at 528.83. On the Seoul Foreign Exchange Market, the local currency lost 2.2 won against the U.S. dollar to close at 1,073.7 won.